What's up guys, Frantic here, and welcome to the Sunday Show where we talk about all things music. This week, the album Her Halo by Teramaze. Let's jump right in. Teramaze is a band that's been around since roughly 1995, and they have released about 5 albums in that time, but their most latest album, which is Her Halo, the one we're going to dig in today, was with new lead singer Nathan Peachey. And I will say that his voice is quite peachy. I was going to cover this album last week, but when I discovered that the band had an influence of Christianity on a lot of the stuff that they do, at least in the lyrics, I figured I was going to have to explain that, and then I went on this long tangent, and you can find that in a more constructed form in last week's episode if, for some reason, you might be thinking, I don't know if I want to listen to this. Either way, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. There's a lot more to this album than that, but that's just kind of a heads up before you jump in. So, how is this album? Phenomenal is one word that I would use, but I don't want to sound like an over-sensationalist. This album is awesome, and let's try to get into the reasons why. Firstly, if you like Dream Theater, you're going to like this band. It comes to no surprise that most of my frequent listeners here know that I like Dream Theater. I mean, I'm not wearing a Dream Theater shirt currently, but go back a couple episodes, I probably was. That being said, this band is a Dream Theater clone. It's not always a bad thing. Being a clone just means that you have very obvious influence in stylistic writing. Well, Teramaze does have that, but the good thing is their execution of it and their own influences that they bring to the table and kind of create their own craft out of it. That's what makes this album stand out to me. It isn't just another run-of-the-mill clone of Dream Theater. The second reason that I really enjoy this is, how they've evolved into this progressive metal beast that they are already. They were like this thrash metal band back in the day. Back in the day as if I listened then. But when you listen to the older stuff, it's a lot different, and they've evolved into this progressive metal group here that does a lot of really impressive things. Each track is very distinguishable from the last. I found myself realizing that when I was trying to think of the certain parts that maybe stuck in my head throughout the day that I kept singing on loop in my mind, I could tell you what track that was from, where maybe when I'm listening to some other bands, I don't necessarily notice that off the top of my head. Well, either way, the album talks a lot about life, belief, and it hasn't done this in this setting of like being at a stage show, and they talk about that a lot in this album, and that's something to just kind of note, that imagine it as if you're in a play watching it all occur on stage, and the main character is focusing on this woman who comes on and off stage. Nearly every chorus is anthem-like in makeup, mainly because of how powerful they are, and I think that's one of the influences of this album, power metal itself, which is of course a guilty pleasure of mine. I can get down with some great power metal. But just the lyrics just make this album seem so much larger than life than it is. They're so mystical and metaphorical. That's just so awesome in essence, and I really like that. And, I can honestly not do it enough justice sitting here describing it. You really got to listen to it, and then when you hear it all ringing and sounding together in just this full sound, at least in the choruses, it's beautiful. With that being said, I'm going to recommend some songs instead of delving into each song and maybe spoiling it. Keep the video within a reasonable length, of course. But I'm definitely going to recommend 3 songs to you, 2 of which can be listened to pretty quickly, and then another one that kind of does more difference. So the first song I want to say is Her Halo, the title track. Great song, clocks in at about 5 minutes. The next song I'd recommend is Out of Subconscious. Again, another 5-minute song. Great songs on this album, some of the best ones on the album. But if you're wanting to look into something that maybe highlights the whole album in one listen through, the first track, An Ordinary Dream, clocks in at like 13 minutes long, but it hits everything. Like, it's basically a checklist of, did we do that yet? Did we do that yet? And then you're done. And then you move on to the next songs, kind of just showing shorter versions of that with a couple of long ones thrown in. Those would be definitely the songs I'd recommend if you don't want to sit down and listen to the album front to back, which is okay, not everybody does that. That being said, that about does it for me, guys. What did you think? Do you like this album if you got a chance to listen to it? If not, definitely let me know. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at FranticJ3, or you can hit up at Frantic_Talks if you just want to talk to all the guys at Frantic Talks. There's more than one of us. What did you guys think of last week's episode? I know I talked a lot about some touchy stuff, mainly religion and music, but I definitely want to hear what you think. After all, it's just my opinion, so it's okay to have a conversation about stuff you might not be comfortable talking about. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought, of course, and what are you listening to this week? I'm always interested to hear that, so I can maybe feature it next week. Who knows? I might like it. Hey, either way, guys, I'm Frantic. This has been The Sunday Show. I'll see you guys next week.